Welcome back to the RedX channel. We have a special guest on our channel, Kent Brown, and you will not want to miss his amazing ability to handle every objection sent his way. Kent is a real estate agent in Utah. He's been an agent for 4 years, gets 80% of his business from prospecting RedX leads, and he earned 470,000 GCI last year. So grab your notepad and pen because Kent has some insights and responses you won't want to miss. Let's go. Okay, we'll jump right in. We're gonna just start with some questions. I'm just gonna throw some of these objections out and you could tell a story, or you could say what your favorite response is to that question, or maybe why it's a difficult question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Objection handler. Okay, so the first objection handler we will talk about is, we'll wait until the market gets better, or we're going to wait until we can sell for a better price. Do you get this question a lot?
Pretty much every day.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it a lot.
Okay.
When you're prospecting. And really what it comes down to, so I think with objections, we have this skewed concept that we need to answer it and we need to address it on the phone.
Okay.
And we don't. That really is a question of, my motivation isn't high right now. So tell me why my motivation should be high and why I should be moving forward. So if I don't know their motivation, I should not be handling that objection.
Gotcha.
Because it might not be a good time for them to buy. It might not be a good time for them to sell. Why are you thinking about it in the first place? So as soon as I find out why are you thinking about it in the first place, from there I can say, you know what, you're right. It's really not a good time to sell. I would hold off for a minute. Or I could say, you know, based on what you're telling me, you're eventually going to sell here in the next 3 to 6 months anyways. We know what the market's doing right now. I think it would be worth our time to get together for just 15 minutes to explore your different options. And if at the end of the day you decide to hold off for 3 months, we'll stay in touch along the way so that way we can give you some really good information. Fair enough?
I love that. I love that. I feel like it's putting in a place of, you're truly just trying to help them and not just get the sale. You want to know what that motivation is. I really like that. That's awesome.
There is some selfishness in that though, because if you're not motivated,
yeah,
I've worked with non-motivated buyers and non-motivated sellers, and they're the worst kind of clients because when the motivation isn't there, they're stuck in their way and won't move. So you have to get really lucky that they sell within the first week or two because they're probably not dropping the price. Again, that motivation isn't there enough for them to do anything about it.
So you're also making sure that it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so smart. Thank you. Okay, what about the objection, what's your commission? How do you typically handle that?
Over the phone or in person?
Ooh, let's do both. Let's start with over the phone.
So over the phone, very simple. My commission is negotiable. Here in the state of Utah, it always is. So that's going to be one of the first things we talk about when we get together and make sure that both you and I are comfortable moving forward based on the commission. Fair enough?
Awesome.
So again, you don't have to handle objections.
Yeah.
Some of them might push you. And if they push you and say, no, before I meet with you, I want to know what your commission is. At that point, you have to answer it.
Right.
But if you're giving what you charge before value is given, they're not going to meet with you. So try your hardest not to answer that one over the phone. If you're answering it in person, then you just answer it. You know, You go out there and you meet with them and you say, hey, here's how our commission works after you've given them value.
When are you focusing on giving the most value in the conversations with people? Is it on the phone or is it at that meeting?
Oh, in person.
In person. Okay.
Definitely.
And so then what is your biggest tactic to get them in person? What are you trying to focus on to get them to agree to be with you in person?
I think if they have a need and they're wanting to get an idea of what their home could sell for, I think the biggest thing is just addressing that and saying, hey, listen, you have a need. The reason why most people don't want to meet with you is because, do you want to meet with a vacuum salesman for 2 hours in your home?
No.
No, but if someone said, hey, you have this need, let's meet for 15 minutes, see if we can solve it. And if we can, great. If not, we can shake hands and go our separate ways. It's giving them that short time frame of, Allison, you need to sell. It's worth getting a second opinion. Let's just get together for 15 minutes, make sure that you're making the right decision.
Gotcha. And then following through with that, right? You got to keep it to 15 minutes or...
Yeah.
I mean... Be respectful of their time.
Yeah. And a lot of times we will. 15 to 20 minutes, we'll keep it because I don't want to stay longer than that.
Yeah.
And so that's where the pre-qual comes in. And that's also where you're adding value is pre-qual, sending out a pre-listing packet, doing everything beforehand. So when you get out there, they know about you. It's really just presenting the information and seeing if they're going to make a decision or not.
Gotcha. I love that. Thank you. Okay, what if you're calling someone and they say, I never hire someone who calls me? What's your response to that?
You know, I get that a lot, Allison.
Do you really?
Yeah. So I do get that a lot. I would never hire someone. When I say a lot, I mean maybe once a day out of the 50 people that you talk to.
That's still a lot.
Still a lot. But the thing is you say it just like I said it. You know, I hear that a lot, and I can't say that I blame you. This way of marketing is not for everybody. Let me ask you this, because I want to make sure that I'm reaching out to as many people as possible and helping as many people as possible. How do you prefer to be communicated with? And then just turn it into a positive. And if they're either going to tell you to go to hell or they're going to answer that question, and then you know the different ways to communicate with people. Because a quarter of the people out there don't want to be communicated with via telephone. Probably 75% of people, though. So if prospecting is your only form of communication with the consumer, you're probably losing out on 75% of the people that you could reach otherwise.
Wow. I love how you don't take a defensive stance in that, and you just approach it as like, I understand. How do you like to be communicated with? Because it's good to put yourself in those shoes of everyone has a different preference, and you don't want to miss out on those ways. So that's awesome.
So one thing I look at, for me, I get the text messages all the time for healthcare for real estate agents, and it drives me nuts when people text me. But if I get a call from them, I'm much kinder with a phone call than I am with a text message or email. So again, my way of doing things is not for everybody.
Right.
And just like texting for a lot of people, let me ask you this. Does a text or a phone call bug you more for a solicitation?
Probably a text, I would say.
Probably a text.
Yeah.
Because you're used to phone calls working at RedX.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, if you're going to want to talk to me, call me.
Yeah. Take the time to pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah. And so a lot of people in the older generation think that same way as well. Call me. Don't text me. Don't email me. I want a phone call. Which baby boomers are our biggest clients right now because they're the ones that can afford houses.
Yeah. That makes sense. And they're not the ones that are going to be texting all the time, I would say.
No.
Gen Z, millennial, which I technically am a Gen Z, but I don't want a bunch of spammy texts because I feel like the texts that I get are from people that are personal in my life. Mm-hmm. And I don't want the spammy ones. Yeah. It's like, don't solicit to me that way, but I don't get a ton of phone calls unless it's my husband. So
if you didn't know a real estate agent, how would you prefer to find your real estate agent?
Probably through social media, actually.
Okay.
Because I'm very much into social media. I want to watch some of their videos, see how they talk, how they communicate, how they work first. And then I would want a phone call.
Perfect. So you would fill out something on social media and then would expect a phone call afterwards.
Yeah. Which again, as I would say, is probably part of my generation. Very much social media minded. So
yeah. And part of mine is, like, if you look at the baby boomers, for example, mm-hmm. they want to call. That's how they did mm-hmm. business. Or they would talk to their neighbors. Like referrals is huge for them as well. Sure. In my generation, we don't ask our friends things. We just Google it, find a 5-star review, and that's how we buy. And that's the same way I am too.
Interesting.
So if I didn't know any realtors, if I wasn't one, if I didn't have any experience with RedX, I would Google top real estate agents in the area, and that's probably how I'd pick a real estate agent.
It's very interesting how there's different tactics like that too, and you really have to know who you're trying to target and what demographic you're trying to target, right? Like,
for sure,
because that's how you need to reach out to them. So anyways, so interesting.
So don't be offended by someone saying, I don't like the way you're communicating.
Yes.
That's all they're saying is, I don't like to be communicated that way or with that way. And so figure out how they like to be and then implement that.
And don't get defensive over it.
But at the end of the day, everything's going to come back to a phone call.
When I was going through all of these objections and those like negative ones that are like, it felt like I was being yelled at through the paper. I was like, oh man, I don't know how I would handle that. And I love how your brain is working when you're talking about these. So thanks for sharing. This is so interesting to me. Okay. The next one is that we're going to rent out the property.
Okay. Was renting out plan A or is that plan B?
It was plan B.
Plan B. Mm-hmm. So plan A was to get the home sold. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Allison. I'm sure you don't want to become a property manager. That's nobody's cards. They want to be a property manager. So if we could get plan A back on track, which is selling the home, netting you the amount of money that you need to move to St. George, are you open to a 15-minute meeting?
Yeah, I think I would be. That's so interesting. Yeah, wow, cool. What if it was going to be plan A? What would you say?
So tell me a little bit more about why you listed it for sale in the first place then.
Okay.
If it's an expired.
Yeah.
If it's a geo lead, you can say, hey, that's great. I can't say that I blame you at all for wanting to rent out the property. In fact, I would do the same thing. Is it in the cards at all to ever sell? Would you ever entertain an offer?
Gotcha.
And if they say, no, we want to keep this for our retirement, say, fantastic. Do you mind if we just stay in touch from time to time? Make sure that you know the value of your home, just in case renting doesn't work out for whatever reason and you need to sell. Would that be okay? And then stay in contact with them, because truth of the matter is, for rent by owners are the same way. And you know this by working at RedX. They rent for a year and think, holy crap, that was awful. If they get a bad tenant, and then they're more interested in selling the year after.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I love how you just like immediately go to, I can still offer you value without helping you sell your home, of sending over information on the value of your home and stuff like that. And I think about, as a homeowner, I would love that update regularly to know how much my home is worth and stuff like that. So yeah, I love that. That's great. Okay, what if you get the question, we need to fix blank before we relist, or we're not ready? Do you get that question a lot, or?
Every once in a while.
Okay.
So great point, Allison. You want to make sure everything's completely ready before you list it for sale, which is exactly why you and I need to get together, just to make sure you're not making any unnecessary repairs. If I feel like you really truly need to repair it to net the most amount of money, I'll tell you. But if it really isn't going to make a difference in the long run, let's go ahead and get it listed right now while the market is, and then whatever the urgency is. So for every quarter, my broker taught me this, you should have a point of urgency that you're selling.
Interesting.
So right now, point of urgency is kids are getting out of school and moms are looking for homes. They want to be in a home before kids go back to school.
Gotcha.
Q1, moms want to, same thing. All the moms are out there looking to get their kids into a new home before summer starts. That way they're settled, they're ready to go, and they don't have to spend their summer looking for houses. And they're ready to go.
Enjoy the summer.
And then once fall hits, to put their kids in the new school district.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. So what would you say are some common things that homes need fixing before selling, and what are ones that you're like, hey, that doesn't need to be fixed before selling?
So you're going to either win the beauty contest or the pricing war.
Okay.
So what people want right now, where interest rates are so high, they want to be able to walk in and say, okay, I don't have to do anything. I can just move in. The house is done. I put my furniture in and we're moved in. Or they want to walk in and say, wow, this is a really great deal. Yeah, I have tons of stuff that I need to fix, but I'm okay with that because I know that I'm getting such a fantastic deal.
Are there any big things that you're like, that is just not worth it to fix before selling?
There are some things, some mediocre things, like I want to plant flowers, or I need to cut my grass, do yard work, move a car out of the garage, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, nobody's looking in your garage.
Yeah.
The garage is a big thing. I need to clean out my garage. I have a ton of junk in there. It's like, well, people understand you're moving. So you get grace for having junk in your garage.
Valid. Very valid. Okay.
We just want it to be a blank canvas.
Yeah. Okay. What do you say when you get the question, how did you get my number?
So we just get it off local records and then ask the next question. Don't sit there in silence.
And give them time to rebuttal.
Yeah. So we just get it off local records. Had you sold, Allison, where were you headed to next?
Gotcha.
And just move straight in. Because objections are as important as you make them. So if you're like, well, I got it off, then it's going to be a big thing. But if it's just like, oh, local records.
And then move on.
Don't
make it a big deal. Yeah. I love that. That's great. I could totally see sometimes how agent responds. It makes it a bigger deal than it actually needs to be. And that I've never thought of that before. So thank you.
Yep.
What do you say when someone says you agents all do the same thing?
That's a valid point. I'm not sure what other agents are doing. What I am aware of, though, Allison, is you do need to get your home sold, right?
Yes, I do.
So if I can show you how we're going to do things differently and make it simple and easy for you to get sold and get to your next location, would you be open to a 15-minute appointment?
Well, what do you do differently from other agents then?
That's a great question. We have a really proactive 20-point marketing plan that we're going to implement that has sold over 4,000 homes over a 40-year span. I mean, that's the kind of results you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
So what's the harm in getting together for 15 minutes? Is this afternoon or tomorrow easier for you?
That was so smooth. I love it. That's great. So that marketing plan that you said, is that something that you would recommend all agents do? Has it been successful for you? What is included in that marketing plan that you talk to an agent or homeowner about?
Yeah, I think everybody should have a marketing plan. We always joke in our listing presentation, the 4 Ps is what we call them. So agents will put the home on the MLS. They'll put it on KSL or Craigslist. They'll put their feet up and pray that it sells. So they really don't have any other action plans outside of that.
Okay.
And that's not really going to get a home sold.
Yeah.
It just isn't, unless you're priced really, really correctly. If you're priced below market value, pricing is really what's going to make a home sell, like at the end of the day. But in order to get the price right, you have to have the consumer tell you and give you feedback on what your price should be.
Gotcha.
And the only way to do that is to drive people through the door. And so if your marketing isn't driving people in, you can't get that feedback on. Actually, we had 5 people come through. All of them said that your grass needs to be cut and that you need flowers. So I was wrong. And your price is too high. So based on what the market's telling us, Allison, what do you think that you and I should do with the price of your home?
Probably drop it a little.
Probably drop it a little. Yeah, to drive more traffic in and to get people to submit offers.
Gotcha.
So big part of that marketing plan is we do the same thing. We put it on the MLS, but we're proactive with prospecting. We're proactive with calling agents that have sold in the area and with the different marketing materials that we'll send out as well.
Do you typically do open houses for your listings?
So open houses, we will, but they're more selfish than anything else.
Okay.
They're more to find buyers, find extra buyers, and a reason for us to call around the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And become a neighborhood authority. Because we'll call them when we list, when we sell, when we go under contract, and when we do an open house. So they're going to hear from me 4 times throughout the transaction.
Gotcha. Very cool. Okay. What do you say when you get the question, nothing is selling in my area or interest rates are too high?
So we hear that a lot when we're making phone calls like these. So, and there are a lot of people in your similar situations. When you were speaking with your agent each and every single week, was that the feedback that you were getting from them, is that nothing was selling?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was getting, yeah.
And when you were on the market, what kind of marketing were they doing?
I don't really know.
See, and I think that's the key problem, is that it has much less to do with the market and much more to do with the marketing and how the home was marketed, which is exactly why you and I need to get together for just a quick 15-minute appointment to make sure that the marketing wasn't falling short, which is why your home wasn't selling. And by the way, when your home sold, where are we going to next?
I love it. I love the follow-up questions. That's great.
So it's all just about questions.
Yes.
You're not going to be good at objections by knowing the handlers. You're going to be good at knowing how to ask another question to keep them on track.
To keep them going. Keep you in control of the phone call.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, you can give them control. People go on tangents all the time, but it's sucking them back in with the right question. So it's keeping them on a straight line path towards the close in an appointment.
I think what's great about questions too is it's putting you in a position where, I guess it's making it so the person that you're on the phone with feels like you actually care about what they want, what their plans are, what they're trying to accomplish, and less of like you're just trying to sell yourself. You're really trying to understand. I mean, selfishly, you are trying to sell yourself, but in a good way of like asking these questions to understand what they need and how you can help them. And
that's the great thing about capitalism, is if both parties aren't winning, nobody's winning.
Right.
So, for example, we're doing these videos. This is Capitalism 101. Are you charging anything for these videos?
Nope.
You're charging people their attention, right?
Yeah.
You're giving them value of what to say. And if they know what to say and they perform and they get more business, do they stay with RedX?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So everything's
Valid.
selfish, but at the same time, if I don't get their house sold, I don't get paid.
Right.
And if they don't get their home sold, they don't get what they want, which is to go to the next location. So really, sales is all about persuasion. And part of persuasion is getting people out of their own way, out of their own heads.
Interesting.
Because it's an emotional thing. Selling a house is super emotional. And sometimes you feel like you want to do what's best. In your mind, you're thinking, man, I know that this is what's best for getting my home sold. And so you think, Kent, you don't know what you're doing. Me as the agent that you hired, which is not the truth at all. You hired me to do a job, and that job is to get your home sold. So I need to persuade you to let me do my job.
I love that. That's great. Thank you. What do you say when you get the objection, we've successfully sold for sale by owner before?
I mean, that's amazing that you've sold for sale by owner. And really, I'm sure that was exciting for you. You saved on the commission, which is probably why you're selling by owner now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So let me ask you this, Allison. Is it more important to say you sold by owner again, or more important, are you like most folks that just want to net the most amount of money?
Well, I want to net the most amount of money, but if I don't have to pay you commission, then I'm netting that money, right?
Some would think that. But if at the end of the day, we could get the buyer to pay for my commission, plus get them to pay even more, and you walk away with the same amount of money and I take care of all of the paperwork, that sounds like a pretty good situation, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking to net you the most amount of money possible. And if paying my commission is a hindrance to getting you the most amount of money, might I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Don't hire me. But if I can clearly show you a path on how that's possible, would you at least give me 15 minutes of your time?
I love that. I love that. That's so good. Just yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Hope you found these examples helpful. If you'd like more of these objection handlers, check the description. We've got 60 plus of them all in one free ebook for all lead types. So go snag that for yourself, get started dialing, and of course, happy prospecting.